sorry. Let me take this off the gimbal. Oops, next speaker.
It's good to see you all here. Thank you, each and every one of you, for coming out here today and gathering together to arm yourself with knowledge that mainstream media certainly isn't going to tell us, and to interact with the community. You know, it's up to us to be sharing information eye to eye, heart to heart, soul to soul, just and opportunities like this to be able to bring information to light. So I really appreciate all of you coming out here. I appreciate what Courtney has done, making this event come together in spite of all else that's going on out here today. My name is Cathy O'Brien, and I'm a survivor of CIA MK Ultra mind control. I was used on a White House Pentagon level, particularly during the Reagan-Bush administration, where I was among the perpetrators who were selling out our country to usher in what Adolf Hitler, George Bush, and Joe Biden termed the New World Order.
Not yet, Jay.
I witnessed a lot, and I learned
Not yet, Jay.
what mind control is all about from my own torturous MK Ultra mind control experience
Oop.
to what is being done to manipulate the minds
That's
of the
too close. That's too
population
close.
for ushering in this new world
Sorry
order.
about the shakiness.
Mind control, the formula for mind control is exactly the same, whether it's of an individual or a nation or the world. And trauma is the basis of it. That's why we're experiencing so much trauma these days. That's why the media is bombarding us with repetitive trauma and repetitive narrative. Repetition is the most basic form of mind control.
It just got
When
underway,
you have
Jay.
trauma and then have repetition afterwards, people become manipulated to do things they wouldn't usually do. When mind control masked as a virus was unleashed on the global population in 2020 to usher in this new world order,
There's a lot of light to be seeing her.
people experienced what
There we go.
mind control is all about. And they began to see that we're all being manipulated. We saw how media was lying to us and telling us that violent protests were peaceful protests. We saw what was going on. And people started waking up. And they wondered, what in the world is going on? But nevertheless, the repetition had put many people in a position where they masked themselves up, masked up the kids. And I know from my own life's experience that masks are used in MK Ultra mind control.
Thank you,
for
Mona.
several reasons, because they limit oxygen to the brain necessary for critical analysis for thought.
Ready to take her seat.
They make people feel like they have no voice and they can't talk to each other, especially if it's 6
Right,
feet
relocate,
away.
relocate.
And they also depersonalize.
No.
Depersonalization
I'm not saying
is
that.
a result of a most basic form of mind control, and it's happening to our children as they're being indoctrinated in a school system to be conditioned to accept this new world order, slave society agenda that's being imposed. We've been conditioned for generations to look outside ourselves, to authorities, to fix everything for us. Whether it's big government, big pharma, even big cult religion has manipulated us to look outside ourselves, when in fact our answers are within us all.
What's up, Sunkissed?
And I am living proof that it's within us all to heal and reclaim our freedom, because the first 30 years of my life were a very structured experience in
It's hard to see.
MK Ultra mind control. And I survived the absolute impossible.
Sorry, I don't have her name.
I was born into a multi-generational incest-based family in Muskegon, Michigan back in 1957. And my father was sexually abusing me, my mother was sexually abusing me, and it's what happens when you get that multi-generational incest. It had been found through the Hitler-Himmler research that was brought over with Project Paperclip into the United States.
I'm gonna try something.
World War II wasn't won, it was just transferred over here when we imported the Nazi and fascist scientists, and with them came deep formula for mind control that we're all experiencing today. My father had been sexually abused, and he was abused in the occult. My mother had been sexually abused, and she was abused in the Masonic Lodge. My grandfather ran a blue Masonic Lodge. So my father's sexual abuse of me expanded into trafficking me, way back then, into my grandfather's blue Masonic Lodge, where there were a lot of local politicians and a lot of law enforcement and people in the community who were in positions of influence. And my father was trafficking me to them. He was also using me in child pornography. So by the very early 60s, like around 1960, my father was caught sending child pornography of me through the U.S. mails. He was approached by a local politician at my grandfather's Blue Masonic Lodge and told he could receive immunity from prosecution if he would agree to sell me into the CIA's MK Ultra mind control project. My father thought it was a great idea. Consider this. We're seeing already pedophilia being sanctioned in our court system as far back as 1960.
Thank you, Mom.
This has been going on a long, long time, and people didn't realize it was happening because we were constantly being distracted to look another direction and not realize the kind of corruption that was creeping into our society, into our sacred institutions, into our education system, and into all aspects of our political system. And our justice system was being corrupted. I was being trafficked and used in blackmail operations as a very young child. Back in those days, the Epstein Island of its time was Mackinac Island, Michigan, where the governor's mansion was located. The governor at that time was George Romney. That's Mitt Romney's father. And he was very much a part of MK Ultra mind control of individuals and of nations. And he understood that trauma is the basis of mind control. It was understood among all these people that had this secret society, this secret organization going on, where they shared the information on mind control. That trauma makes us easily led. It makes us more compliant. It's like our conscious mind freezes in fright and leaves our subconscious mind open to being easily led and manipulated. When trauma occurs, we need to safeguard our subconscious mind. We used to know how to do that, but that information has been kept from society for so long that we have forgotten that it's within us to say no, to stop complying with this dark, negative agenda that's being imposed on society.
Oh, she's in the way.
It was understood that of all the trauma, there's no trauma more horrific on the human mind.
Damn it.
The sexual abuse of a child prior to age 5 while their brain is still forming.
Nope, not gonna work.
That is why we're seeing the pedophile agenda being pushed so hard. It is a mind control agenda.
Sure is.
We need to start protecting our children. Our children are being targeted to create a compliant society where this pedophilia is causing identity confusion. It causes a dissociative identity disorder. This depersonalization, compounded when everyone wore a mask and couldn't even show their face and who they really are, has taken an extreme toll on our children to the point where what is actually our mind's sane defense to trauma too horrible to comprehend has been misnamed and conditioning the population to say that it's gender confusion. It's not gender confusion, it's identity confusion. These kids have been let outside themselves so much they don't even know who they are anymore, and they're not allowed to grow up in a normal way that we're all intended to be living. Again, we need to start protecting our children. We need to understand that that the education system was taken over in the 80s that I know of. Going back to this politician who told my father he could receive immunity from prosecution, even though he was a local politician at the time, it was Gerald Ford. He went on to become the unelected president of the United States. As his political career escalated, so too did my victimization in MK Ultra mind control. I was programmed on various NASA and military installations, DARPA installations, and I was deep in the swamp among these perpetrators who are ushering in this new world order. I was exposed to Democrats and Republicans both. And they met, like I said, at Mackinac Island, Michigan, and it's where they discussed their plans, how they were going to infiltrate the school system and put in a form of mind control in the school where they indoctrinate the children. And it picked up where Adolf Hitler's youth program left off. That's why our children are being misled to the extent that they are in the school system. It's up to us to realize that, get active in our communities again, and protect our children in the school system. To realize that human and drug trafficking is the funding mechanism of this new world order Great Reset.
Thank you, Silly.
That's why the borders were the first thing that was flung back open 2020 when elections were stolen right in front of us all. After mind control masked as a virus was unleashed on humanity. They had to have their funding mechanism back. They wanted that drug and human trafficking across open borders to resume. I'm acutely aware of that. I was used by these perpetrators in to carry out their bidding. I was used in drug and human trafficking ops. I was used in other black ops. I was used to compromise certain politicians. At the time it was Bohemian Grove. It's where they were covertly filmed with their perversions. And then blackmail. Because these criminals are just a handful. It's only a small handful of them. It's the same ones over and over again. Look in Ford's cabinet. You're going to see the same people. He had George Bush, Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, Henry Kissinger. He had Jack Valenti as his press secretary. Jack Valenti was head of the Motion Picture Association of America, who decided what we were going to see on TV. He's the one who decided that anybody who questioned the Kennedy assassination that Ford was covering up with the Warren Commission, anyone questioning it was called a conspiracy theorist. And that's when that came into play. To keep us all more compliant, not daring to look beyond the media narrative and just allowing for this shadow government, this secret government, this new world order to sneak in behind the scene for so long. Being in the swamp among these perpetrators, I knew for a fact that they had no concern whatsoever for elections. They knew that the elections were rigged since the inception of the electronic voting machines. They came in the wake of the Kennedy assassination. That's when this new world order gained such a hold. And when we understand where these roots are planted, we can take back our lives and our communities and our free thought and our free will and our personal sovereignty and our national sovereignty. But it begins with each and every one of us to know the truth and to understand the truth has been deliberately manipulated by the media and in education for a long, long time. Because knowledge is our defense against mind control.
So third.
It is truth that makes us free. And fortunately for me, I was deep in the swamp in Washington, D.C. among these perpetrators, Democrats and Republicans alike, because it didn't matter. My 1995 testimony for Congress, Transformation
I saw that auction.
Which is secured on my website.
I didn't want to plug this in our auction. It would have been inappropriate.
TRANCE-formation.com. Check it out for yourselves because that information is secured there. And I've got a few books of that information with me tonight, but my testimony outlined exactly this plan that we're experiencing today. But in 1995, national security was invoked on that testimony. And since then, not only have I been censored, but the information has been altered. Not only is truth censored, it's being diluted and diverted to divert you from the facts that you have a right to know and a need to know. Because armed with that information, we're going to realize that it's just a small handful of perpetrators who look like there's more of them than there are because they have control of the media. Follow the money, and you'll follow the puppet strings right up to the same handful of puppet masters and realize it's inexcusable that we allow this dark energy force to manipulate our brilliant minds and lives any longer. It's up to each and every one of us to reclaim our sovereignty and our inner strength and realize that nobody is going to do it for us. Stop waiting on big government to fix this problem for us. They're doing it to us. We can't wait on anyone to take care of it. It's up to each and every one of us. When we look within ourselves, we'll all find we have the strength within ourselves, that infinite source and the power of love. Having been around these perpetrators, these global leaders, these self-appointed so-called global elite, and their greatest fear is us. Their greatest fear is the strength of the human spirit. Their greatest fear is that we will remember that we have all the power and look within ourselves. That's why they have devoted so much effort to lead us outside ourselves and look to authority and not believe in ourselves anymore. We got to understand we've been manipulated for a long, long time. Fortunately, very fortunately for me, in 1988, an intelligence insider who was working the highest levels of intelligence mind sciences, Mark Phillips, was seeing what was going on, the erosion of our constitutional values, the mind manipulation of the population. He was seeing little children going in and out of the White House. He saw what this pedophile agenda was how it was being used as a mind control mechanism and to compromise people in key positions of power. He saw what was happening, and like so many others in those high positions who saw what was going on, he was outraged. He didn't get any voice in the media about it. So he decided to do something. He decided to take action. And he rescued my daughter and me right out of the Washington, D.C. swamp. I was so fortunate that Mark did that, and he handed me keys to my own mind. Because basic information on our mind-brain function and how we all can heal, how we can all overcome any level of trauma or immobilizing negativity, had been suppressed under national security. Simple, basic birthright information we all have a right to know and a need to know. Simple things like he told me to write out my memory, to write out what I had been tortured to forget, to write out what I had experienced under MK Ultra mind control, to write it out by using a pen and paper. When we move a pen, it uses the logic part of the brain. It activates this critical analysis part of our minds, where the information that's so emotionally incomprehensible gets shifted over to logic, written out on paper right in front, where it's consciously dealt with and analyzed. And then, from that point, we can take control of our own thought processes and rise above the imposed negativities that we're experiencing these days. Write out what it is that your greatest fear is, what the trauma is, what's stopping you from getting active in your community. Whatever it is, write it out. And then add a solution. Because Mark taught me from the beginning, voice no negatives without a solution. And I spell solution with an S-O-U-L. When you add that solution, it's like you get your brain firing. Those neuron pathways are opening up and they're firing in a new way that lifts you above that negativity, where you get a clear view forward. It's like rising above the storm where you can see the path forward. It's a real important little tool that we all can use. And it's a very important tool we need to get back into our school systems. Writing by hand has been taken out of our school system very deliberately because typing does not do the same thing in the brain. It does not activate that critical analysis part of information. So we need to get that back in so our children will start writing by hand again and using the critical analysis part of their brain. So they're not just indoctrinated anymore. They can process information, research for themselves, learn to think further. It's where we all stand to win. I'm so fortunate that Mark Phillips came along in my life when he did. I'm so fortunate that I knew love for the first time in my life. I fell in love with Mark so right away. I mean, he was my hero. He saved my life. He saved my daughter. He was everything. But he wouldn't have anything to do with me. He said, you have to heal first. You have to know who you are in order to have something to give in a relationship. Well, love is the greatest healer, and it was a great motivation for me to heal as fast as I could. And after I healed, I was so disgusted with what I had been forced to do under mind control. I was so horrified at what the plan is for us all in this new world order, slave society agenda, that I didn't know how I would be able to deal with who I am. And people would say, well, you have to love yourself. And it was like, how can I love myself after what I know and after what I've been forced to do under mind control? Daily affirmations did nothing was helping with that. But Mark told me, he said, you are not responsible for what you were forced to do under mind control. The people who tortured you and programmed you and traumatized you are the ones responsible for that. And they need to be held accountable for it, just like these perpetrators who've been traumatizing our nation and our children. They need to be held accountable for their crimes against humanity. It's time. This is our time. It's our time to shine. When I realized that, I looked deep within myself to see who am I. And I couldn't base it on what other people thought of me. I'd been following orders the first 30 years of my life. I needed to know who I am, the base core energy of my being, and I looked deep within. And I found that energy, and I found that energy is love. Love is the most powerful force in the universe. It's an infinite source of strength. And having found that love within myself, I realized, oh, I just need to live the love I am. I don't have to love myself. I'll just live the love I am. That's a whole lot easier. And in that loving attitude, in that energy, I found my life's purpose. I found why I'm here, why I survived. And as long as I'm here, I'm going to keep speaking out and bring this message to light so that we all look within and reclaim that strength of spirit that these perpetrators fear the most. They feed off of negativity. They feed off of fear. They feed off of trauma. They feed off of hatred. That's why they're trying to divide us. That's their energy. So don't give them any more of that. This is our time. They fear our strength of spirit. They know that the strength of spirit, we have the ability to stand up and say, no more. I am not going to comply anymore. It's where we win. It's where they lose. It's game over. This is what we're needing in society today in order to start making a positive difference and getting out in our communities and talking with each other and sharing this information with each other and get in the school system and protect our children. No one's going to do it for us. By 2016, there were so many people awake and aware in this country that we overrode the rigged electronic algorithm in the voting machine to put in a president that wasn't Hillary Clinton. Everybody was onto it by that time. They knew the New World Order was going to be ushered in by her. It's in my 1995 testimony. It was going to go through the Bush-Clinton dynasties to create illusions of change until Hillary was to usher this New World Order in 2016. Well, it didn't happen. The sheer numbers of us overrode that algorithm. And then we elected a president who was showing us what the swamp is, who showed us the funding mechanism of drug and human trafficking across open borders, showed us that the swamp needed draining. What we didn't understand at the time, though, is a swamp has to be drained from the bottom up. It can't be drained from the top down by one person in a very corrupted system. It's up to us. It's up to each and every one of us. So this is our time. By 2020, these perpetrators were so freaked out. They were behind their plan. It wasn't happening. It wasn't unfolding. People were waking up. They were scared of this great awakening that continues to grow. The media didn't tell us we were the majority in 2016. We didn't have the media uniting us then. Just the sheer numbers of us made the difference, and the sheer numbers of us can make that difference now when we realize that no one is going to do it for us. It's up to us. This is our time. This is our time to shine. This is our time to live the love we are. This is our time to reach out to each other in light of truth and to share this truth that makes us free. I encourage you all to arm yourselves with truth. Check out my website at trans-formation.com. Read my books. They are packed with knowledge and roots of this corruption. National security was invoked on all these facts that clean members of law enforcement and intelligence had validated. Every word in Transformation of America has been validated. Not by the FBI. The FBI has been corrupt for a very, very long time. And we need to understand that because the FBI is overseeing the Child Protective Services, the CPS, this human trafficking operation is being, it's like a catch net operation to put the children right back into the cycle. We need to realize that and absolutely not wait on the FBI to do anything for us. If we see abuse, if we see a child being abused, we need to void the Child Protective Services. My own daughter was thrust into it here in Nashville. And that's in access denied for reasons of national security. It tells how Mark and I were able to navigate a very corrupted system and manage to bring truth to light against all odds, because talking about human trafficking, child sex trafficking, the pedophile agenda, and mind control back in the early 90s, people really didn't have much of a point of reference for it. But nevertheless, like I said, enough people were awake by 2016. And I know my owner in MK Ultra mind control was U.S. Senator Robert C. Byrd. Byrd was in office for over 50 years, head of Senate Appropriations, deciding where money would be delegated and how it was going to be spent to really usher in this new world order, undermining us in the process. And it began by making states dependent on federal funding in the school system. Byrd also had an office in the FBI building. He set up the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children as a catch-net operation for human trafficking. We need to avoid that and realize the system has been so corrupted that we need to organize outside of that system. At this point, that's what's happening all across the nation. It's happening because people are sharing the truth and they're helping each other. People helping people. People reaching out and making the difference. Giving those who have been trafficked a safe place to be where they can heal, just like I did, by the simple methods that Mark taught me, which I have posted on my website in an ebook form. It's called PTSD, Time to Heal. It's empowering people all over the world to take back their self-control and their inner peace and find that strength within themselves. And it all begins with free thought. Truth really does make us free. We have a long way to go to undo the corruption that's been sneaking in for so long. But it's happening. The people have it organized. This is our time. Share this truth. Arm yourself and each other with this truth that makes us free. Look within yourself and find that strength. And celebrate the freedom to live love, to live in peace and harmony, and to live life's purpose. What an amazing time to be alive. We're all here for a reason. And this is our time. This is our time to shine. Thank you so much.
I'm trying to reposition myself. Sorry about the shakiness. I'm holding the phone up with my arms. Oh, this hurts.